Hi, I'm Jeff Miracola, fantasy artist and illustrator. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how I created this Goblin painting using acrylic paints. The first thing that I have to do is prepare my painting surface. For this painting, I use illustration board and I cut it down to the size that I need. I use 1-inch thick masking tape on the borders of my illustration board so that when I'm done with the painting and I remove the tape, I'll have a nice clean edge. Cut off any excess tape with an X-Acto blade. The only supplies I need are a bowl, some water, the gesso, and a foam brush. You can see that I've got 4 different boards there, because if I'm going to prepare one board, I usually prepare many. It's just as much work to do one as it is to do 4, 5, or 10. I add a little bit of water to the gesso, because if I put on the gesso straight from the bucket, it's too thick and it will severely warp the illustration board. And you want it watered down enough so that the gesso drips off of the foam brush. If it doesn't drip off the foam brush, then you don't have enough water in the mixture. I apply the gesso in nice even coats straight across the board. Once the boards have dried, you can see how they have warped a little bit, they've curled up. So I turn the boards over and use the gesso to put an X across the back of the board. You do that to all of them. Once that dries, it pulls the board the other way so they straighten out. Then I do a second coat of gesso on the front, and there's no need to put an X on the back again after this. But now it's time to do some rough sketches. I use an ebony pencil and regular Bristol drawing paper to work up a few concepts for what I want the goblin to look like. I don't spend too much time on each drawing. I keep them very rough and energetic. I'm only trying to work out basic shapes and composition. Once I've settled on the drawing that I'm going to go with, I work it up just a little bit more, but again, I'm not spending too much time because I'm actually going to redraw this on the board. I switched to using a brown colored pencil to do my drawing directly on the board. The reason why I do that is because it doesn't smear as much as the ebony pencil. The next step is to seal the drawing onto the board by using a spray fix. That way I can easily paint over the drawing without destroying it. And as usual, I do this outdoors because the fumes from the spray fix are very strong. You should always spray this stuff in a well-ventilated area. Okay, so now it's time to start painting. I brush on a little water just to start prepping the surface and getting it ready for the paint, so that the paint I put down moves around a little bit more easily. So now you're thinking, oh no Jeff, what are you doing? I'm basically just toning my canvas, or toning my painting surface. Putting down a little brown acrylic paint and just getting rid of all of that white space. I use a burnt sienna or brown color to start. I could use another color like blue or purple. The important thing is that I use a color that is a middle tone value, a neutral value, something that I can work darker from and also lighter from. And brown is a pleasing, warm color to begin with, and I want the painting to be a little warmer. Add a little bit more water to the burnt sienna. Still, I'm keeping the piece monochromatic, but I'm just working up a few of the different tonal values. After that dries, I brush on blue over the entire piece. Again, it's about darkening up the picture a little bit, getting rid of all the white areas. Because the way I work with acrylics, I like to make my canvas middle tone value so that I can push and pull from that middle tone value. Meaning I start to work up my lights and then I'll work back into my darks, and I just kind of push and pull. I go back and forth between brightening things and darkening things. But it's much easier to do if I start from a toned canvas, something that has like a middle tone value. It's a lot more difficult to do just from a straight white canvas. I work work loosely in the beginning, and then I get more and more detailed as the painting goes along. The more layers I do, the more detail I do. I don't try to get one little tiny section of the painting done before I move on to the next, at least not to start. In the beginning stages, I'm all about just trying to cover the entire surface with paint. As I go along, layer after layer after layer, I start getting more focused in on smaller areas of the painting, working up detail. After the painting is dried, which only takes a couple minutes, I then start doing a glaze over the entire painting using a yellow-green paint. Once I put that yellow down, I can continue to work more on my lights and my darks. But because I did that glaze, the entire painting has this very consistent warmth to it. The other nice thing about glazing is that it allows you to change or affect lighter colors in your painting. For instance, in this painting, you can see all of the white areas that I've brushed the yellow over and now turned yellow. Well, that's pretty obvious, but that can be one of the techniques that you use to bring your painting to life. I could paint that yellow straight from the beginning, but it doesn't have the same kind of glow and vibrancy to it than if I paint those areas white and then brush over with a yellow glaze. It's very, very different than if I tried to do it with a straight yellow from the beginning. And lastly, I use a palette knife to take a little bit of paint and work around the edges to add a little bit of texture. After I'm done with my painting, I take the tape off as soon as possible. You don't want the paint to dry for too long before you take the tape off, because acrylic paint turns very plasticky when it dries. So on that note, when you do take the tape off, make sure that you are peeling the tape away from the painting. That way you don't peel up some of the paint off of your painting. And that's it, all done. The painting took about 2.5 to 3 hours to complete. I hope you enjoyed this acrylic painting demo. I've got a lot of other videos on my YouTube channel, so please consider subscribing. Thank you for watching.